Well, there's not enough there to resist, and then vitality goes down enough to where you have weakness, sickness, and disease, and could be premature death takes place. So what we want to do is we want to learn what the cause of this is, and then to prevent it, of course, we're going to have to keep that resistance up, aren't we? And of course avoid some of the allergens if we can identify them. As I said, that could be a tough thing to do, is just to avoid all the allergens. And I try to discourage people from trying to put all their attention on the allergen, because we get preoccupied with these allergens, and that can become stressful just trying to identify them. You can go and they can give you tests of 150 different kinds of allergens, and they test you with it. Well, that's stressful just in itself, because every one they give you is going to set off the alarm, and if you don't have enough resistance, that's the only ones they're going to be able to say you're allergic to it. Only if there's a resistance, or not enough resistance, will they get a symptom. So they give you all these little deals, shots and everything, and mold and viruses and all this kind of stuff, and you don't have no resistance. All that means is that when the alarm went off, you had enough to resist that. Of course, after a few tests, you're going to be run down if you're already run down, see. But some allergens can drain and lower your resistance faster than other allergens. Just like some stresses can do that, see. So those are some of the things that we deal with. So anything that increases the stress, anything that causes blood pressure problems as far as weather changes and these other types of things as it relates to where you live, as far as lows and highs and stuff like that, those can all give extra resistance or require more resistance. So you'll be more allergic to things maybe during a full moon, or when there's a low coming in. Some can be more allergic when a high comes in. See? Because these changes the blood pressure, or the need for your body to cope or compensate. And some of it could set off that alarm. And then our allergens are setting off the alarm too, and there's not enough go around, so you get the symptoms showing up then. So we want to get away from being preoccupied with symptoms. Let that just be a way of saying the alarm's going off, but there's not enough resistance. Now what can we do? What changes can we make in our lifestyle to help the body resist better? That should be our mindset. That should be what we should be putting our attention on and focus on. If we do it on the symptom, then that makes the symptom more real. And it's not real. The symptom is just a symptom. There's no reality to symptoms. It's just an effect. See, that's so hard for us. We make the symptom have some substance. See, and then we put that becomes more stressful, and that becomes allergy. We should see that a lot of our allergens are symptoms that we're thinking about. And you can actually think about something enough and you'll have it. They've done enough studies to prove that. You think you're sick all the time, you'll be sick all the time. Because we keep focusing on the allergen symptoms, and that keeps the alarm going all the time, and never gets to shut down so that you can stop resisting. So you keep resisting allergies. And allergies is a word. Has no substance at all. And here you're using your reserves to resist something that's got a name. Well, that's running your battery down, see, just doing that. So we don't want to do that, right? So that's why I talk about these symptoms, so that you can quit worrying about them, quit thinking about them, and start dealing with your lifestyle that's going to eliminate the exhaustion that these particular problems are causing. All right? So, we've identified what allergies is, and let's talk about what are some of the allergens. We talked about what allergens have done or can do. Sets off the alarm. We resist as long as we can, and then we become exhausted. And so now, what are these allergens? Well, we have chemical allergens, and that could be the chemicals they put into our foods to preserve them or to make them so they are packageable, you know. Put certain things in so they can freeze them without frostbite, and so there's all kinds of things that make them look good. They might be embalmed, you know, someone that's dead, and they make them look really pretty laying in that casket. And that's the way most food is. You might as well leave it in the casket. It looks beautiful, but it's dead. And whenever you put anything dead in your body, it's full of allergens. In other words, you're setting off your alarm, and your body has to resist that because there's nothing in there that your body can use that will give you nutrition or give the body what it needs to replace its cells with. So we don't want to eat embalmed food, right? So a lot of the allergens are, as far as things that we put into our body, there's chemicals in those foods. And we want to avoid those. We want to get foods that don't have those in if we can. Or neutralize them or wash them out or do something so that our body doesn't have to set off its alarm in order to take care of it, because that's going to keep wearing down your reserves, and at some point it's going to cause an allergic reaction. All right? And then you can get chemicals in the air. And of course, if there's from car exhaust to who knows what, from factories and things like that, just all the restaurants, the fast food restaurants, they're putting out a lot of pollution. Just the grease that comes out their stacks in their stores, that goes into the air, you know. And so you've got all of those types of chemicals that are in the air that cause acid rain, which then gets into the water supplies. So we got a lot of allergens in the water supplies. So what's the common denominator of an allergen? It's not a food. And it's not air that you should be breathing. An allergen is anything that sets the alarm off in your body, because it's not something that belongs in your body. And if your defenses can't filter it out before it gets in to the operation of your body, then your body has to send its defenses there to resist it. And you'd want that to be that way, wouldn't you? Now, sometimes its way of resisting it is to store it. So a lot of times, a lot of allergens are being stored, like in our warehousing. The little pinches, love handles, little hips, a little bit, legs here and there, gain a little weight out here, a little fat. Sometimes the body stores these allergens and keeps them out here, keeps them out of the way. And that's probably better than wearing down the immune system to handle them, wouldn't you say? Because if it stayed in your vital organs, it might have to keep resisting all the time. That alarm never goes off. And we want to make sure that alarm shuts down, especially at night. Because that alarm should be off when we go to bed. But some people go to bed with the alarm going off like crazy, and they're resisting all night. And so they're not resting. That's no good. At some point you're going to become exhausted, and then you have allergy symptoms. Because the allergen is not, you're not able to handle it. It's causing a reaction because your immune system, your resistance is not there to neutralize. Okay? So chemicals out of the water, that's in the air we breathe, and the foods that we eat could all be sources of allergens. And of course, you got pollen, and you got a lot of natural particulate matter in the air that's there at certain seasons of the year. See? But they shouldn't be a problem if your body has enough resistance to take care of them, see? It should be able to handle those things so they don't cause a reaction. But those are some of the sources of what they call allergens, reactions. So an allergen is anything that gets into our body that does not come from a food, that's not a food, which is a food is something that comes from a seed, hasn't been overcooked, overprocessed, or preserved. So anything else we put in our body is going to set off the alarm and qualifies as an allergen. Okay? Now you know why everybody's allergic. I mean, if you look at their attitudes, their mindset, their mood swings, as well as the physical, you got just about everybody out there. If they weren't taking some drug to suppress their symptoms, you'd see that everybody's got some allergies. All right? So allergies, just again, it has no substance in itself. So allergens are anything that, now water is not a food, does not come from a seed, but we want good water that has none of this pollution in it. So that's why we recommend distilled water. So really I can say with confidence that any water, even spring water, will have allergens in it. Any other water is going to have allergens in it. And if you pour your distilled water in a container and it's not clean, then you'll pick up the allergens that's in the container. Now spring water or reverse osmosis water, if it's on a water softener, will qualify as being close to what distilled water would be. And deionization is the other way that we can get all the allergens out of the water. In other words, what we want from water is H2O, oxygen, hydrogen. And this becomes very important to the body being able to resist allergens, is to have good water flowing through your body. As we'll get to next when we talk about resistance and what's needed to resist and overcome and prevent allergies, symptoms anyways, and allergies from having an effect on you. So, so those are all of the different sources of allergens that could cause allergies. All right, but there's no, they're not trying to attack you in a sense, although chemicals do attack you, viruses do attack you. In a sense, they are foreign to your body, and your body has to resist it. We could say they are coming after you in a way. And some of them we have to stay away from, if we can. But when it comes down to the final line that we've got to draw, we've got to build up our body's resistance and keep it up. Because we're getting to the place in our pollution and disrespect of our Creator's creation to where we're in a real pickle of a problem here, that we're not going to have any environment to live in if we don't make some changes. Because you're going to see more and more people becoming more and more allergic, and there's not going to be anything that will stop the reactions. No drugs will stop it, even vitamins and minerals won't. By the way, a lot of vitamins and minerals are synthetic, or some's been added to or taken away from them. So they don't qualify as a food, and you can have allergies, reactions to those things. Okay? But I've never seen anybody have an allergic to foods, be allergic to foods, if they qualify as a food. And I've had hardly any people say that they're allergic to spinach. Guess it's possible. A lot of people don't like it. So a lot of things we don't like, we're not allergic to. But a lot of things we do like, we are. But so we've talked about loss of vitality being the cause of weakness, sickness, and disease, and the loss of vitality in this particular case of allergen is due to low reserves. And again, obstructions can cause low reserves, as we mentioned, because our body doesn't clean good, then it sets off the alarm too and runs down and exhausts us. But so allergens can have their source within our body and without our body. And I have found over the years in my working with people that most allergies reactions start from what's in the body, by allergens within the body wearing down and exhausting the reserves to where you become more sensitive to allergens that are in the outside. All right? So normally if you clean out the temple and build up the reserves inside the body, you become resistance to the allergens that are attacking you from the outside. All right? Okay, now what is there that the body needs in order to resist? In other words, if you're having allergy symptoms, that means that your potential, your bank account, is low, too low to resist. What is it low in? What does the bank account need in order to resist the allergen and shut off the alarm? Because as soon as the alarm goes off, then there's no symptoms. All right? And we don't want to just settle for resisting. So there's a lot of people who are resisting, but they haven't shut the alarm off. So we need to try to shut the alarm off. Because as long as the alarm is on, your body's resisting. And so there's two main reserve that we alluded to at the beginning of the seminar. One is magnetic or rest energy. We have a 120-year warranty on the cells that make up our body. And that warranty means that we have to keep that warranty. It's just like the battery in your car. You got to make sure you charge it up as much as you discharge. Is that a reasonable request? What if you just crank, and your alternator doesn't work? Your battery's going to run down, right? And then you'll go, run, 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 run. You know? If you let it rest for a little while, run, 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 click, click. Okay? That's the way a battery works. That's the way some people work too. But see, your battery, life's battery, is what we're talking about here. And when you keep setting that alarm off, what if you left your alarm on your, example, your wind-up clock? You left that on too long. What would happen? It'll run down and then you won't hear the ring anymore, right? Then you get no resistance at all if there's no alarm. And some people don't have any resistance and nothing. So not only don't they have enough reserves, but their alarm isn't even ringing. It's run down so much, see if the alarm don't even go off anymore. And see, then the body just wastes away then, see. You know, that's what hope does. Lack of hope does too. Okay, so so we need the reserves. If you have allergy symptoms, we got to build up your resistance. To do that, we got to get that reserve of rest built back up. In other words, your battery has to get charged back up. And you do that by resting. And there's something that you're getting while you're resting that you recharge your body with that is tremendous importance to resistant allergens. You know what that is?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. While you're resting, you're getting what's called North Pole magnetic energy, which comes from the Earth. And what that does is while you're resting, and by resting I mean you aren't working on food all night, so that means you shouldn't be eating past 6. You shouldn't be eating meat past 2. Or you're going to be working on that food all night instead of recharging your battery. So while you're resting, that magnetism of the Earth is pulling oxygen into your cells and tissues and recharging them. It's like a tire, deflating, and then you put air back in it. That's what's happening to your cells. Because all during the day, you're using oxygen to do all the work that you're doing with your body, see? And while you're using that oxygen, you're running your battery down. If you're under extra stress, you're running it down more than if you're not under stress. All right? But if you run that battery down more during the day, then you can charge it up at night. See? Then you're lowering your potential resistance against allergens. And so that's one of the things that we're going to have to make adjustments in our lifestyle. In other words, you got to find a way, if you have allergies, symptoms, you got to find a way to recharge that battery, which means we've got to take some load off the battery during the day and or get extra charge at night. And when you start doing that, and if you can do that, then you start building up your battery reserves, you start charging it up. Then when the alarm goes off, there'll be enough reserves in the bank to resist the allergens. And you won't be exhausted anymore. You won't be exhausted from the reaction that's going on. Doesn't mean you're still there. Doesn't mean you arrive, now you can go back, and run your battery back down again. That's what a lot of people do. They get over their symptoms and they go right back to the same lifestyle. See, that runs their battery back down again. They don't get to bed on time, they eat late, they eat too much, which overloads the digestive and elimination system, so they're working on that all night. So they just can't keep their battery charged up. Or they take on too much during the day. You get the feeling better, their symptoms are gone. Like asthma's an allergic reaction. That's an allergic reaction. Can't breathe. Well, then they get the breathing better and they go and do the things that interfere with their breathing. They don't exercise. They don't do things that help the lungs get the rest and the energy that they need, see? And they go right back and do the same old thing again. And you know people like that, right? And so we've got to find ways to help take a load off the battery during the day. Well, what are some things we can do to prevent allergies? We've got to work on ways to compensate for the stress and intensity of our lifestyle during the day. And so that's why I keep telling people, encouraging people, trying to educate people on getting breathing. Not exercises that set off your alarm. See, most people are doing exercise, jogging, and a lot of the aerobics and things like that. They're doing this, and a lot of reasons why some people have allergic reactions is they're jogging all the time. They're doing things that run the battery down so much that they can't get enough rest to keep their battery charged up enough to resist the allergens. He says, well, Don, this makes me feel good. Sure it does, because you're kicking your battery. But you're running down your life's battery, and you can't get enough rest to compensate, and so there's not enough battery charge to resist the allergens. So you're going to have to learn how to pace yourself. What we need is good breathing. See, we need good breathing technique, good breathing efficiency, so we can get more oxygen out of the air to run your body rather than adrenaline or stress, which runs your battery down. In other words, we're not supposed to be running on our battery only enough to give a little spark, you know? So you shouldn't use much battery to spark your spark plugs to run your car. It doesn't take much drain off your battery to spark your car. You spark your fuel. But when you crank it so much, when you're having to crank it, it won't start, you know, and can't spin it enough to get it going good. And that's where you really run the battery down. That's what jogging and stress, intensity of dealing with work and family and stuff like that do to you. They make you crank too much, make you cranky, right? So we're cranky instead of, you know, running smoothly. And so the cranking takes the place of our breathing. The stress and all these things tighten us up, and we can't breathe good, and then the battery kicks in. And we run on battery, and we can't get the battery to do very good unless we give it some Snickers, some coffee, maybe a Coke. Twinkies works pretty good. You know, nuts, peanut butter's a good one. You know, these adulterated foods at best, or these substitute for foods that we call foods, we get dependent on those things just to kick us, to keep us going. And all they do is set off the alarm and go rob more from your reserves, which lowers and runs your battery down more. So a cup of coffee doesn't give any energy to your body. All a cup of coffee does is run your battery down. And as long as you got enough resistance to compensate for the coffee, you're no allergy symptoms. But as soon as you don't have enough resistance to handle the coffee, then you're nervous all the time. You have a coffee reaction. And you know people like that, so they go to the decaf. So the decaf, what these guys did to keep you from getting nervous after you're allergic to coffee because your batteries run down, they put some tranquilizers in there. Isn't that nice of them? They put a little tranquilizers into the coffee, so now it can relax you so that you won't be so nervous as a part of your allergic reaction, which is the body saying, my reserves are too low, my batteries run down, this coffee's not going to kick me anymore. Okay? So that's what we need to see. We've got to make adjustments in our lifestyle, and when we're dependent on something to kick us, to keep us going, then automatically we should know we're allergic. You know, we're allergic to something. If our energy's low and we're weak and tired, we're allergic. The allergens are winning. And the alarms go